Hi, Christopher.
Hi, Rebecca.
How you doing?
All right. Well, welcome to, what is this, the One Table Talks?
Test.
Talks test, yes.
Yeah. So maybe, just because it's the first test thing, we might want to talk about, so who are you, and why are we doing this, and then who am I, and why am I agreeing to do this?
Well, let's start with you
Oh.
and where we are. And, I'm just kind of traveling through here right now. And, your organization has, hosted us for the last several days. So we got to have an inside feel of kind of what's going on in your organization, and some changes are happening. You've got some exciting things. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that, and then later maybe
Okay.
you got some questions for me.
So my name is Rebecca Gretz, and I am currently the national coordinator for Ubuntu Contributionism, which is a movement, sort of concept, more of on building united society and thriving as a community because we help each other. And so Brian Racino started a food operation some number of years ago, and he and I have come to agreement that I'm going to take over for him for a little while. And so because of that, we get to be here at this restaurant called One Table Cafe, which Brock Rodart is heading up. And we also, this last November, purchased a 1898 schoolhouse, and that's sort of becoming our hub of building united society. And that's where you and Roy stayed, and that's where there's about 8 people living and working very diligently toward community living, which is a much harder task than any of us imagined. So so the school is a school, and it's not really designed as living quarters, and in the long run it won't be living quarters, but right now it is serving as living quarters for us to be able to be growing food and fixing the school and that kind of stuff. So,
Well, I've heard of people buying an old school bus and converting that into housing, but you guys have actually bought an old school.
yeah, which we call the bus.
That you call the bus and have turned it into housing. So
That's
you've
right.
kind of done this. Whatever happened to tiny homes and tiny living and stuff like that? You're not part of that movement?
Oh no, we'd love to do that, but when you want to have room for a lot of people right away, and in the long run. So what the idea for the bus is,
Okay.
which is building united society. What the long-term goal for that is for it to be a healing center and a community center where the extended community of Walsenburg. We're in Walsenburg, Colorado, by the way. The extended community of Walsenburg, and eventually maybe the extended community of Huérfano County in Colorado, can come and learn a different way of interacting with each other and interacting on the planet. And but we're really at the very beginning stages of that, and because we're at the beginning stages, we're like having to forge a path, and we have our machetes out and our samurais out, and we're trying to not kill each other in the process of our learning, and it's a process. It's a process.
Well, isn't that what life is all about?
Yes, but we're not told that that's what it's about. So we think that we come into this world, we go to school, we get a job, and then that's life, and we're never actually told. Yeah, but all of that is a process, and the process is really about your growth. The process is about raising consciousness, from my perspective. So.
Well, do you have anything else to add about the organization and stuff that you are working with, or anything like that? Because I want to kind of get to some of the stuff that we talked about, just kind of one-on-one. We kind of started talking about love.
Right, we did.
And, I was kind of joking that, one of my past businesses, I was the love doctor on the radio. And you said you also had a
radio show, the Expressions of Love radio show.
Expressions of Love radio show.
Yeah, sort of the synchronicities, which is really kind of interesting, right? So in my process, in my journey, what I'm aware of is that love is the energy that is going to save us, for lack of a better way of putting it. And so this was several years ago, I was like, well, let me find out because pretty much everybody has their idea of what love is. And so what I wanted to do was find out, get a taste of different perspectives on love and different expressions of love. And so some people express their love through music, some people express their love through writing books, some people express their love through going to bed with a woman. Sometimes, so it's all these different things. And I was curious about that, so I started the radio show, and I am curious about that, so I'm starting a whole new society based on love.
Well, love is something that's not new, I don't think.
No.
It's ancient, I believe.
Yeah.
So what is your definition? Because I kind of have my own kind of definition, experience of love, and there's many different types and stuff, but what's your definition of love, especially if you're creating a whole new society based upon love?
On love. So I guess my interpretation at this time, and I do want to sort of emphasize that because I'm consciously trying to raise my own consciousness, evolve myself, I'm not going to own this for the next 10 years, right? This is what's true for me today.
Right now.
Right. And so my perspective on what love is caring enough about you to allow you to be who you are without me trying to put a wrapper on that and make you fit into a particular role. That I care about you enough that even if I don't like necessarily what you're doing, I still honor and respect who you are as a human being. So, for instance, I'm a vegetarian, and I'm pretty adamant about why I'm a vegetarian, and I feel like that's a consciousness thing. But my husband is a meat eater, and I still love him, and I absolutely will let him cook his meat. And the people at the bus, almost all of them are meat eaters, and so not judging, that place of judgment of this is good or this is bad is, in my definition of, is not part of love. That is a limiting and limited perspective. And so, yeah.
Well, that's my experience around love is I didn't really know what love was until I got into a state of love. And I kind of talk about, people say I'm in love with you. Mm-hmm. Well, if you break that up, I'm in love and I am with you. Mm-hmm. If you can be in the state of love and be with me, then we are in a state of love. We are in love.
Right.
But, I can be in love, I can be with you, and you not have anything to do with love or anything like that. You're just sitting here going, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
It's kind of that heaven or hell thing, at least the debate in my head. I can be here and be in a state of heaven, and you can be there and be in a state of hell. And we can both share this space right next to each other.
That's right.
And I definitely prefer the state of love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and taking that concept of in love, I used to differentiate being in love with loving somebody, because for me that state of in love is sort of this. But I want to emphasize that I actually really appreciate your perspective on that it's actually a state, right? A state of love, and so I'm in this state of love. But the way I used to sort of see it was that in love state was a physical and emotional, but in a specific kind of love. So my typical desire for myself is to be love, is to be that energy, to be, and not in that energy, but be that energy, be that
vibration.
That
maybe?
vibration.
I think that's
a frequency, exactly.
Right.
So I'm not in it, I am it.
Right.
And when I first fell in love with my husband, that was a completely different energy than the state that I consider that frequency that I'm talking about. the energy that I had around me when we first got together was, you know, I was jittery and my hands were sweaty and I would, you know, do almost anything that he, you know, said or wanted, and
Right.
and that love has matured into something that's much deeper, a much more stable and much more intimate, really, relationship. And it may not survive me coming to Walsenburg, right? Because I'm doing this because of my idea of this bigger energy and frequency of love, which encompasses the world, right? And not just one person.
So, you know, you were talking about intimacy and love, but, you know, here you've got the bus that, you know, is a co-living facility, is really when you break it down.
Mm-hmm.
So you're living in community,
Mm-hmm.
you know. How are you able to love all those different personalities and that sort of stuff, and not just end up shooting each other?
Or leaving. I'm
or
done, right? So,
right.
So that is the experiment that we're working with, right? That is the question. How do we do this, and how do we do it in such a way that is actually changing ourselves and making it possible for others who come there to see that they can change themselves as well. And all I can say at this moment is I don't know. We're experimenting with it. We're like, okay, let's try this, because what I do know is it has to be different than what has been done before, because what has been done before has brought us to where we are now, and where we are now, globally, societally, is not anywhere near my definition of love. And I don't think that you could find maybe anybody who would say what we have now societally is love. And so pretty much anything that we try that's really truly different is a step in the right direction.
So tell me a little bit about your vision of the near future, further future, whatever. What resources you're needing in order to accomplish those tasks. You know, whether it's money, people, things, knowledge, whatever. And, you know, you've got an audience that is a test audience, so
Yeah.
it could go viral. Who knows?
Who knows?
What do you need?
So
What are you doing?
So I am gonna keep it really tight to
Yeah.
current, because the longer term vision gets people a little bit.
What can people do right now?
So what we're doing.
And what are you doing
Okay,
right now?
So I'm going to start with what we're doing. What we're
Okay.
doing right now. So we have this old building, and the building, if anybody was, if there was an investor buying it, they would be looking at it saying, oh, well, the roof is shot. I need that much. I need $20,000 for the roof. The right rear northwest corner needs to be lifted up. All the paint is peeling. You know, all of the stuff. Luckily, we don't have any asbestos. So that's
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So we don't have that to deal with. But the building itself needs a lot of work, and we need technical skills for the work. But before we get technical skills, well, unless the technical skills are willing to come and work for free, which is what is happening now, or for space to live.
Right.
But we need the money to actually make it possible. And I think that what I'm hoping for is that as our vision gets more defined and perceived as more possible, there will be the people who have money who say, yeah, I actually am willing to make a bet that can happen. And so I'm gonna place my money on the table and help this happen. So we need the technical skills, we need the money, we need the material. And actually, it doesn't have to be money; it could be materials, right?
Right.
So we need the materials and we need the tools. And the tools include a bulldozer or unfortunately, I am not the person who. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. I'll try not to get distracted by it, but.
That's an investor calling. That's how fast this stuff works. We're not even live. The
And it's
phones are
already
ringing. Keep the phones ringing, folks. Call in now.
That's right.
Hit that link below, up there, whatever,
Wherever it
call,
goes.
send the email.
Here's the donate button right here.
That's right.
The long-term goal is to recognize that the fiat currency that we all depend on in our current society is not actually what makes things work. What makes things work is people and the resources that they have. So if you are a person, if we find the people who have the equipment that we need to do the landscaping and the work on the bus, that's fantastic. Then we don't need the money. If we have the resources, which is the roofing material and the skill sets to actually do the roof, then we don't need the money to do it, because all the money is doing is giving us access to the people and the materials that will do it for us. One of my favorite sayings from Michael Tellinger is, "Money does nothing, people do everything," and that's absolutely true. And the money, if I had $20 million and I put it here on the table, and there wasn't somebody to do something with it, it would sit on the table for forever, right? So it's the people who say, yes, I'll do that for $20,000, or yes, I'll do that for whatever. So we think that it's the money, but it's the people making the commitment to do it that actually makes the thing happen. And we have equated money as the tool that makes it happen, but it's actually the people are the tool that make it happen.
Right, absolutely. Money can get resources, but it can't buy everything.
Right, and even we experience the same thing. So if the money, if the people with the money don't like your idea, the idea is not going to go anywhere. Unfortunately, the unfortunate thing right now is that if most of the time, and I know you and I have talked earlier yesterday or whatever, that's not necessarily true, but most of the time, in my head, if the money that the money invests, if the money that the people with money invest doesn't bring a return on their investment, then they're not going to invest. But you did try and correct me yesterday, but you can see that that's still a story in my head that's the way it works.
Well, money is, in my head, stored value. Mm-hmm. And people tend to give in different ways. Mm-hmm. Give of their time, their effort, whatever, their money, mm-hmm. their materials, their knowledge. And they tend to do it in different increments. Some people like to give, $1 a day, just mm-hmm. to kind of give $1 a day. Some people are like, I'm not giving $1 a day. I'm going to save those dollars up, and I'm going to do something significant, after I use compound interest and, mm-hmm. All this other stuff, and then I'm going to have something to really make a difference. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of people that get vilified about making money. But the thing is, you can only use so much resource yourself. You can only use so much, so many homes yourself, whatever. There's nothing wrong with having nice stuff. I mean, I'm all for abundance. I'm all for quality.
That's what we're working on. That's what we want for everybody. That's what we're doing, yes.
Absolutely. So I think that, we're there on that. But just as much as you need money, mm-hmm. because or resources, whatever, you need to be able to get what you need to get rid of the roadblocks to accomplish your goal, so we can live in this state of love, this society of love that we're trying to get to. Right. So what can we do to get those roadblocks, taken out of the way? We happen to live in a society that runs on currencies. Right. We currently run on currency. And the people that manage that currency have a tough job. Mm-hmm. Where are they going to place that currency responsibly, mm-hmm. so they can do good for, on return, mm-hmm. but also do good in society? Mm-hmm. Because maybe this is the money, the capital, that they've been saving up to do something good with. Right. And what if they were able to not only have saved up all this money, but to give you $1, and you can create $2 worth of value. Mm-hmm. Like right now, you guys have a restaurant, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sell pizza. Mm-hmm. So if somebody decides to invest some of their money that they've been saving up to do good with, mm-hmm. into you, they're not just buying a pizza and somebody's eating it. Right. They're buying a pizza at wholesale cost. You guys get to sell it at retail, make a profit on that, and that's what you guys use to live off of and share from those profits.
That's a long-term goal, that's right.
Okay, but and that's helping right now on a small basis.
That's right. And
That's helping.
So just so there's clarity around that, it's not just to have a restaurant, right? So in Walsenburg, Colorado, when I first started coming here about 2.5 years ago, I'm vegetarian, and I'm pretty clean. I want good, organic, healthy. It doesn't have to be organic, but it has to be grown in an organic fashion or a natural fashion, and with love if possible. But whatever. So I'm conscious of that. And currently in Walsenburg, or at that time in Walsenburg, it was very difficult to find any kind of vegetarian food that wasn't just a grilled cheese sandwich on white bread and an iceberg lettuce salad with a tomato on top.
Right.
And so part of what we're doing here at One Table is bringing in this concept of really truly healthy food. So it's not just any pizza, right? We're using this einkorn flour, which is an ancient flour, which means it hasn't been messed with the GMOs, and the body doesn't respond to it the way that it responds to normal gluten flours, white flours. And we are going to be having a smoothie bar where people can come and actually get a real, true vegetable and fruit and supplements. Supplements could be Coca-Cola, could be ginseng, could be any number of the supplements that support our body in its healing, and those things are as important to us, me, about this restaurant as just having the restaurant is the vehicle to get healthy food into the people of this town and the people driving through this town. And that's important to me that there's that difference is understood, because just to have a restaurant, if we were just having a restaurant and wanted people to come in, the typical consciousness of the people driving through Walsen, and that's not really fair for me to say, but the typical consciousness is, do you have a Coca-Cola? Do you have a hamburger with some French fries? And do you have, whatever, a Snickers bar, whatever? And that we don't cook with sugar here, right? So sugar is one of those poisons that we've been told and fed, so that our bodies crave it. And so when somebody who hasn't been practiced at eating real food doesn't have sugar, they're just like, they don't like it, they whatever. So we are creating an opportunity for people to actually experience the benefits of truly healthy food, where the food is actually in a relationship with you and healing the body.
So this kind of takes me to a concept that we talked about the other day, B Corps, benefit corporations. So a business with a purpose.
Right.
And you were just talking very passionately about, well, this isn't just a business, this just isn't a restaurant. Right. This is a new way, a healthy way of eating, with, cutting out certain foods, right. Adding in certain foods, that sort of thing. So, not only are you starting businesses, but you're starting good businesses, right. Healthy businesses,
right. Businesses that help us,
that matter.
That's right. That help us think differently about the planet. And that's one of the great things about B Corps, is that the bottom line is not just the financial end of it. The bottom line is that triple bottom line of people, planet, profits, I think is what it is, right? So how are the people that work there, plus the people who are being served there, how is that happening, and how is it truly benefiting them? How is it benefiting the planet? And because of those things, it's also benefiting by producing a profit, so that you can then either re-engage it into some other kind of B Corp or some other. We're actually talking about co-ops, so that the money and the wealth stays within the community. And my hope is that the community becomes Walsenburg, and then the community becomes Huerfano County, and then the community becomes Colorado, and then the community becomes the United States, and then the community becomes North America, and then it becomes the Americas, and then it becomes the planet, right? So we just keep making it better and better and better for everybody on the planet. But we're starting here in this humble little town of Walsenburg, right?
Well, and you talked about other businesses besides the restaurant. So it's not just a restaurant. It's more of B Corp businesses that solve problems
Right.
that produce a revenue that, in a co-op fashion can be shared amongst those that are participating
That's right.
in a local area.
Well, and eventually, long term, it benefits everybody who's part of who's contributing anywhere in the world, right? So locally, yeah. Never mind.
So how is this different than like a stock ownership plan? Employee stock options or
Well,
something
it
like
is.
that?
It's definitely, at least right now, local. Right, it is local. So, and so if you had a local currency, you could have a local stock, right? And that might work. The goal is to keep the wealth local. So right now, if I invest in a startup company in Japan, some of those profits are going to come out of Japan to me. So whoever the workers are who are working in that company that I've invested in, unless they've also invested money into that business, they're not going to see the wealth of it. And that is what I see as part of the problem that we have in the capitalist system, or in the stock system, is that the wealth is extracted from the places where the work is done. Then the workers very rarely they're doing all the work of it, but they're not seeing the benefit. They don't get to live in the mansions. They don't get to, and not that I want to live in a mansion. That's not something that I'm attracted to, but I absolutely want to have nice stuff. So the school is.
That's a mansion to me. I mean, I don't know.
It's a mansion, but it is messed up, right? I look up over my bed and I've got water stains all over there, and some of the ceiling is peeled off, and it's continuing to peel off, and I'm just hoping it doesn't fall down on me, right? And there are people who live like that every day. I'm choosing to because I have a better vision, right?
Right.
And I see that's the potential for this building, right? But if I lived in the project someplace, that might be what my life is. Right, forever, and that's what's not right. It's not okay, right? Everybody, because we've been told that if you save enough money, if you work hard enough and you save your money, then you'll have a mansion or you'll have anything you want. But most of us don't have that opportunity, either because of privilege. Wow, couldn't even think of that word. But the perspective of privilege, right? So if I'm born white, and I'm born white in a somewhat privileged area like Boulder, Colorado, my life is going to be a lot easier than somebody born black or brown or whatever in Detroit, Michigan, right? And so the availability of my choices is completely different. And that's what I would like to address, is how can we make it possible for everybody to be privileged? Right? Everybody on the planet is privileged and gets to live in abundance. And so that's what this experiment is. Okay, how do we create that with this rundown building here? How do we create the fact that it's possible for anybody anywhere on the planet to live in abundance?
Well, one of the things, there's a couple of things that kind of pop in my head, is one, everyone works. So it's not just hey, we're going to show up and there's going to be abundance or anything like that. Everybody agrees to work. They're volunteering their time, their effort, their skills, their knowledge. So they're like, okay, we're in for the group. The funny part is we talked about the leaky roof syndrome that, I've traveled the country and met with a lot of, directors of organizations and got to experience them and stuff. And a lot of their fundraising efforts are, oh my gosh, my roof is leaking, please send in $20,000. Our roof is leaking, we need $20,000.
Right.
And, whatever shoddy work happens the next year, oh my gosh, we sprung another leak, our roof is leaking. So they're in this perpetual, crisis fundraising.
Right.
And, there's like this burnout, I think, when you go back to the same investors over and over again, the same people that are giving and supporting your cause over and over again with this emergency. And, one of the things that I really admire about what you guys are doing is this B Corp deal where, $1 donated, invested, whatever, that could even be done as a loan.
Right,
And, that money can be
That's
used here,
right,
use it for whatever you need to do, generate the profit that
That's
can
right.
move forward,
That's right.
return the principal.
That's right,
And that can go on to
Exactly.
survive itself.
right,
So you can actually help, those that are in philanthropy and that sort of stuff extend their giving, because $1 given to you or $1 loaned to you, however it's structured, and your structure's open, and how you get to use these dollars, $1 to you can return a multiple effect.
right.
And I think that's how a lot of people that have money have made their money, is on interest and compounding
Right.
and that sort of stuff, making their money $1 do more than $1 can do.
Right,
And we also talked about synergy.
right,
One plus one doesn't equal two.
always, right. Sometimes it does, right?
Right. But synergy is when it
Synergy, right,
does more than that.
Right,
And so we can actually create, from some of the stuff that you're doing, create this synergy with these people that want to do good.
right.
So you want to kind of recap the projects that you're working on again, real quick, and kind of what you're,
Yeah. So we got the school. We already talked about that pretty ad nauseum almost. And we are currently working. The Permaculture Action Network is coming for the Sonic Bloom Festival on June 20th, 2019, and they're coming for a one-day love fest at the bus. And we'll be putting in solar panels to help offset the cost of power for the bus. We'll be putting in a greenhouse to help offset the weather problems that we can have for growing food. And they'll help set up the fencing around a chicken coop. And all of these things are potential business or money makers. I don't know if business is right, but they certainly also feed the bus itself. So if we're not paying money out to generate our energy, then that's money that can be used someplace else. And if we're not paying money for our eggs, then that's money that can be used someplace else. And if we're growing some of our food, so each one of those things, and that's one of the things when you talked about, this dollar can actually generate $2. It's actually that synergistic effect. It's not just linear.
Right.
It's this multi-layered concept where this money, we're using this money and leveraging it so that it's bringing in multiple streams of either streams of income or lowering the outflow. So it's having the multiple effects, and we talk about it as a community all the time. What's the best use? Because when you started talking about the leaky roof syndrome,
right.
So that place of being in emergency, that place of being in lack, that place of being in poverty consciousness, which is prevalent across our nation, across the world, really. The problem with it is that it makes you feel like you're only allowed to get this much, and then if you use it for the leaky roof, right? Instead of using that $20,000 for building a business that actually then continues to feed you money, so that then you can actually fix the roof every time it leaks, right?
Right.
We have been trained or taught, at least the bulk of us, that you get money for what you want, instead of you get money and you use it to create more money.
Right.
So and that's something that I'm just, I have not lived my life. I am not living in a mansion. I am not living, high on the hog. I don't make a lot of money. But what I am committed to is this experiment of can we do this differently enough that we can change the trajectory of where we are headed as a human race. So.
Well, and I would argue that the bus is a mansion, and with the right support of the projects that you're doing, that it can be that first class example of what you're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
The people that I've met are first class people, smart people with some great knowledge and skills that are rolling up their sleeves and getting stuff done.
Yeah, and they're all doing it really to give kudos to them. They're all doing it because they believe in this vision of a better world for everybody. I didn't finish actually, so we also have, well, no, it was my fault. I was like, I didn't even stay on track with your question. So we also have a part of our community is a 35-acre farm out near Honey, Colorado, which is about 20 miles south of here, and southeast, something, whatever, that way.
All right.
And they're building greenhouses, and they are going to be, you mentioned the tiny house concept, and tiny homes need a little bit more property, right? So that's what we're talking about for that property, is having the ability for people to maybe invest in a tiny home condo or whatever, and that's still in the brainstorming phase. But the people, as you've said already, the people who are engaged in this are idea people, and all we need is the focus of, we're going to actually do this idea, and then we focus our energy on that, and because there's just more than one person doing it, it manifests really pretty quickly, and the more people who come into contribute and play, and especially currently the people with skill sets, because there's a lot of people with ideas, but if they can't, there's a lot of people with ideas, but if they can't actually help in some way that helps to manifest it, then it doesn't, ideas, as we talked about,
Right,
are
dime a dozen, and if you can get that, take it.
Right,
One of the things unique about Walsenburg is their stance on tiny homes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they're the first city in Colorado, and maybe even in the country, that passed an approval for tiny homes to be in this area. There are some restrictions, like they actually have to have a foundation, and they have to be connected to the city water and the sewer, which makes them more expensive. It means you have to have a piece of property, means you have to have whatever they call a tap.
Right.
And those things are money generators for the city, which, in the long run, it'll be great when the city doesn't have to be making money, because the people who are managing the city, whatever, the people have enough money for the city to run without having to gouge its citizens, which is where I see that right now.
Well, and I've met, at least one of the city council members here in Walsenburg, and they seem to be.
He's right on board. He's our number one fan, and we're super excited that he's James Hudgens, and he ran for city council, I think 2 years ago or something like that, but maybe 1 year ago. Got elected a year ago, and it makes a difference who's on your city council. It makes a difference what they're thinking about. It makes a difference if they care about the people of their city, or if they care about being known as a city council member. Right? It matters what their motivation is.
Well, what's interesting, about James and how I met him is I was coming down to Texas after the hurricane down there. And we stopped, and James is like, how can I help? And he had an inverter, that we could hook up to the car battery, so we could help people,
Right.
charge up their phones.
Right.
Because after a hurricane,
Yeah.
that's power outages cause cell phone outages.
Yeah.
So we were going down to help, and ended up. I think some people in Walsenburg donated, and a lot of the towns, in southern Colorado, donated, and brought food and tents
Nice.
and all sorts of stuff down to Texas after that. So James cares about people, period.
Yes, he does.
Is from what my experience has been.
Absolutely.
Here in Walsenburg, and even those in Texas that had some stuff that happened to them that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to come back and see what everything that's going on, not only with this organization, with the restaurant, but with the town, and with the bus, and how that's going on. Is there anything else that you want to share before we kind of wrap this up?
No, I actually want to know a little bit, before we wrap it up, I would
Okay.
like you to tell a little bit about your story because this is the first test.
Okay,
Whatever.
yeah.
So,
You know, my story is, this isn't even something I'm prepared to tell, and it's, you know, thank God this is a test. Because I can change my past, you know, just tell you why I'm here. You know, I come from the system. You know, went to business school, went to the University of Houston, entrepreneur. You know, I don't think I'm a very good employee, so it's either, you know, be homeless or be the CEO. So, you know, I was going to school and decided college wasn't for me, and went out to the business world and figured out that I got my butt kicked. So I decided to go back to college. Found the entrepreneurship major at University of Houston, and it was during the dot-com boom, and I had the interesting choice of deciding whether or not to finish my last semester of school or to be funded, have my internet company funded. And so everybody was becoming dot-com millionaires then, and you know, you got all these people that, you know, billionaires that have dropped out of college. So I'm like, see ya, I'm dot-com millionaire, you know, on my way. And so I got to live that life for a bit and got to get egg on my face during the dot-com bust.
right.
And so I have since made it and lost it several times. You know, I got into real estate. Absolutely love real estate opportunities. In particular, you know, what can you do on real estate? You know, the highest and best use of real estate.
Right.
Not just, you know, let's cut down all the trees and, you know, slam something in there.
Right.
You know, I'm more into the eco development. I find that the more natural the land is, the more valuable it is, especially in today's society. You know, that parking lot that used to be a forest would be worth a lot more now if it was a forest.
Right.
So finding those pieces of property and preserving them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really in love with the, you know, tiny home movement, living simply. I'm into simple luxury.
Yeah.
You know, just because it's simple doesn't mean it has to be junky.
Right.
You know, I've lived in the mansion that, you know, you need 8 to 10 days a week just to handle maintenance, to clean it, right? You know, for that one party that all those people show up that you don't even like, and you know, it's like, why am I doing this?
Right.
Especially when you're in a small family unit, you know, you're by yourself or with yourself and one other person. It's like, can't use all that space.
Right.
But like at the bus, if you've got a lot of people using it, there's that energy there of the space being, you know, used to its fullest.
Right.
So those are some of the things that, you know, I shut down my business. My business shut down 7 years ago. I was asked a question, what happens after we die? And it kind of took my world and flipped it upside down. There's a whole story behind
We'll talk
that.
about that on the next one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But, you know, what happens after we die? What do we leave behind? And, you know, can we leave this world a better place than what we found it? I believe that, you know, there's people like you that are in these little pockets that nobody gets to see, doing some amazing stuff. And so you can't necessarily come to me and tell me about all the things you're doing. So I've come to you and seen some of these wonderful things you're doing. And if I can capture that somehow and share that with those that can't see it, so that way they can support and learn from what you are doing, and maybe they take that and put their own twist to it, and make it their own. But, you know, they've learned how to do the foundation. I think we were talking about foundations earlier.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's really, you know, an amazing thing for me to attempt to do, is get the word out that, hey, you know, these fantastic people are over here doing something and they need this, and this for this, and this.
Right, and what I'm excited about actually with that is, I know that we are not the only group experimenting with this, and what I'm hoping comes out of this is other people saying, yeah, we're doing that, and we're doing it like this, so that there becomes a sharing of experiences and the sharing of knowledge as far as what has worked for a community and what hasn't worked, so that we don't all try and create the same wheel 1,000 times, right? It's like, if we can start to really share this information with each other, because this energy of knowing that we have to do it differently is pervasive across the planet.
Right.
And there are lots of people trying to figure out how can we do this differently. And if we can start to connect our dots ourselves, right, with, okay, this is what this town in India is doing, and this is what this town in Washington is doing, and this is what this town in Kosovo is doing, right, whatever, right? So maybe we actually are much further along than we think, because we only have our own little, our little microcosm that we think that we're building a foundation. And the foundation might be much more pervasive. We just don't know it, because we don't know that we're out there. And so this hopefully is a tool that helps us recognize each other, right? And so maybe other people will say, wait, hey Christopher, come interview me too, because we're doing something similar. And so
Right.
then we get to be...
So we start building that network and shared knowledge and build
Exactly.
upon that and not duplicate efforts. I think,
Exactly.
that's a lot of, cooperation. You talk about that with, in
Yeah.
shared resources. You talked about a tool bank,
Right,
I think.
Right. And you were talking about shared spaces, right? A shared workspace. And when to truly thrive, one has to look at the resources and say, okay, well, I don't need to have a sewing machine and her have a sewing machine, and her have a sewing, and him have a sewing machine. We can actually have a place where it's the sewing machine place, and we bring our work there, or so that we're not all replicating our tool shed, and whether the tool shed is a bulldozer and a lawnmower and a rototiller and a whatever, right? We only need to use those X number of times a year, and some of those only once a year, and some of those not even once a year, right? So if it's in a place where it can be used by the community thrives, which is really what the goal is how can we make it possible for more of us to be having access to a better life? And sharing of resources is the easiest thing that we can do. It does require a shift in consciousness, because so many people have the experience of, well, I shared my tools and they got mistreated and broken, and I'm not doing that again. So there's a lot of pain that has happened in a lot of people's lives where they have this protection up, and I understand that. And in order for us to make the shifts that we need to make, we have to figure out how to heal those wounds so that we can be open. We don't have to have these protections, and we can recognize that yeah, tools are probably going to get broken. Can we as a community get over that and buy another tool as a community and have it ready again, and not make it somebody's fault that stuff happened, right?
Well, and what I think I'm hearing is fractional ownership, like co-ownership. You own this is a tool.
Right.
We own a piece of it together.
That's
We're kind
right.
of like, this is
Exactly.
our investment. We're investors
Exactly.
in this.
Exactly.
But then there's also this co-use.
That's right.
So I can check out that tool
That's right.
when I need it.
That's right.
So I don't have to worry about the housing costs of it or anything
Right.
like that.
That's right.
I mean, those that, are fairly wealthy that have yachts and planes and, cars are even becoming, fractional owned.
That's right.
So, these are concepts that we're just scaling.
That's
It's
right.
hard to afford a jet, but I can, somebody might be able to afford a fractional piece of
Right.
that jet.
Right.
And that's really what you're talking about here
It is.
within the community is,
That's right.
hey, we own a jet,
Right.
and you can, because you're part of the community, you fractionally own
Right.
part of that jet,
Right.
so therefore you can go get a ticket on that jet,
Right.
and that sort of thing, right?
Exactly. Right. So you talked about the co-office space, but through membership.
Right.
And I had the pleasure of going to a sort of a dinner at a tool library in Denver, and got to sort of hear the story of how that got started. And they've been in operation for 4 years, and it started with just a little tiny space, and by now they have 800 members, and they started with a yearly membership of I think $70, and she just this year upped it to $100 so that she could actually start drawing, she and her part-time employees or volunteers really can
Right.
start drawing, being paid for what they're doing, that's the piece that almost always in the nonprofit world or the volunteer world is ignored, is that because we still live in this fiat currency society, even though we have this desire to be doing benefit corporation stuff, we still have to buy our food, we still have to have our shelter, but our mindsets are sort of like, yeah, but I don't want to take the money away from the benefit of the whole. And so trying to remember to build that into the organizational structure is, okay, as soon as we start making a profit, right? So right now we're all volunteering, like we're all in, spending 20 hours a day. It's not really true, but 20 hours a day on focusing on making this happen. And some of us have to go and work so that we have the money to fund this. But as I said, we're doing so now. One table is beginning to make a profit, only just enough to start affording to pay for its own food, right? So really support itself, but which I guess isn't really profit still. We're just now getting to the place where we're starting to break even. But as soon as we start making a profit, the first thing that I want to add in there is wages, because right now we don't have that. We're not paying wages. People are volunteering, and there's a lot of legal stuff that we have to look into around that, because we're starting as a co-op, we're starting as volunteer stuff. So what happens when you start paying people? Do you have to pay them the minimum wage, which I think is whatever, 8 something or 10 something, whatever it is. Is that a requirement on the thing, or can you do a shared? So we have enough to pay one $10 an hour wage. Can we split that between 2 people, and can they then each one of them be making $5 an hour? That's all stuff I don't know yet. There's a lot of work that we have to go. But the point is that we have to be able to feed the people financially as well as physically, so that that they're not stuck here, right? They're not stuck in the community. They can actually leave if they want to.
Well, and one of the things, and we talked a little bit about this the other day, that I've seen work really well is where you partner a volunteer with somebody who's getting a wage. Mm-hmm. So if you can afford to pay $10 an hour for 2 people, if one of them's a volunteer, now you can afford, because he doesn't want or she doesn't want any money, now you can afford to pay up to $20 an hour for somebody, so they get a livable wage, and this person gets to do their service work or whatever.
I didn't hear that, so thanks for re-saying that, because that's
and the other piece I've seen work is where volunteers pay to come volunteer for something, and then a community member, is paid out of those funds. Right. But how important is one of the things is not needing money is kind of the purpose, right? Because if you don't need money, you're not stressed out about all that stuff or whatever. But I think in looking at some of the literature and stuff, it's about having an abundance of money actually to meet all your needs. Well, it's not about everybody being broke. It's about not needing money, but having plenty of it.
Right. So it's still coming in, right? So you have all of these financial funnels, right? So you have the one table, and you have the chicken egg sales, and you have the tiny house community out there, and all of those things are bringing in money to the community. And if the whole town were doing this, right, and if all of the businesses that are currently typical capitalist businesses, if they were instead co-ops that were supporting the larger community, then this town becomes a place that is a tourist attraction to see what's happening in a town, and which brings in more money for the town, and the town then starts to share all of this money. But between the town members, the town citizens, they don't. If I go to the grocery store as a town member, I don't have to pay for my groceries because I'm part of the town. I'm part of the co-op, so to speak. Anybody coming who's not here as part of the town is paying for the groceries, because that's how the town makes more money. how the business makes more money.
Right.
But because we all are contributing our time to the thriving of this town, we don't have to pay for our housing, we don't have to pay for our food, we don't have to pay for our energy, we don't have to pay for our water, because the money that's coming in from outside is paying for that, right? And we have figured out how to do it so that the town is thriving, and that in itself becomes an attraction for other towns to say, wait a minute, how are they doing that? We would like to do that. And then they come, and as you mentioned the other day, we become something like a university town, right? It's not your typical university where you sit down in class or whatever. It's much more experiential, right? People are coming and witnessing, oh, this is how this is done. Right now that doesn't exist. We're at the very beginning foundational stages. Can we just even live with each other enough and agree with each other enough to make that happen? And as you and I have talked about several times over the last couple of days, relationships, the community building and relationships is the key. Because if we can't figure that piece out, then the rest of it is not going to happen.
It's the key, and it's also the thorn in your side. If we could do this without people, it would be great.
Actually, I disagree. I mean, for today I might agree with you, but ultimately I know in my heart that it is through the people that make it's what makes it worthwhile being here, right? If I was here by myself, I wouldn't want to be, right? It would not be, even if I had access to all of the stuff, but I was up by myself, it would be like, okay, that's really not why I'm here, right? I'm here for all of us to be witnessing our thriving, witnessing our evolution, and boy, I tell you, I'm willing to grab as many people as I can. Come walk with me. Come, let's journey this and see what we can create together.
Come to the party.
Come to the party and let's figure out where we need to make adjustments. Maybe the bonfire needs to be a little lower. Maybe the music needs to be a little louder. Whatever it is. But let's do something that actually makes a difference for everybody on the planet. And when when I say everybody, I actually even mean the planet. So everybody, the trees, the animals, that everybody is benefiting, not just the humans, because the humans have this tendency to think that if we're okay, everything's okay. And all you have to do is look out into our climate collapse that's happening and recognize that we are not okay. Even those people who have all the money in the world and are living in the lap of luxury, they are probably the least okay, because they have no idea what that's costing the planet. And that's another thing that I'm hoping that comes out of this, is this consciousness of how is this affecting. So we're getting ready to put these solar panels in.
Okay.
And what's happening right now is they're looking at, okay, where do these need to go? And they placed them at a certain place, and they were saying, well, in order for it to work this way, we're going to have to cut down all those trees. And I was just like, can we put them someplace else? Do they have to go right there? These trees are working really hard. And so we started brainstorming, well, we could move the trees, we could, and it's like, okay, well, let's see, is there someplace else to put this? And there's also an anthill right there where we're working. It's like, okay, if we put these here, right, are we sinking a concrete footer into the ant hole, right? And I know that anybody listening to this is like, so what? They're ants, right? But they're not in the school. They're just doing their thing where they are. And if we have a choice, can we consider that? Can we consider, okay, the ants have been busy working here, and they're doing their thing, and the trees have been doing their thing. Is there a way for us to work around our needs? And if not, then okay, so what can we do? Can we move the anthill? Can we move the trees? Whatever. Just that awareness of that it's not just about our needs. It's a bigger picture than that whole layered thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, are you willing to give out any
Absolutely.
information or anything like that?
So I'm actually happy to have people contact me through the Ubuntu network, r.gretz@ubuntuplanetusa.com. You can go to our website, ubuntuusa.org. You can call me, 303-478-1897. Just so you know, I won't answer if I don't know the number, so leave a message, otherwise you won't get a call back. And
Well, you're brave because we're going viral with this
test.
So, anything else?
No, thank you very much.
High five. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what we're doing together.